guys, April here, owner of Fur Kids Boutique. So today's episode, I'm just gonna go ahead and just jump right into it. So as you guys know, if there's anything I love more than your dogs and your cats are the 1920s and anything vintage. So dating, right? As we know today, whining and dining, drinking and driving. No, that was not the case in the 1920s, guys. Dating back in the 1920s was completely taboo, not even a thing, and non-existent pretty much. Why? Because there was courtships. Now, if you guys don't know what courtships are, they're pretty much what people thought was dating back in the 1920s. So courtships back in the 1920s were pretty much held by the rich and the wealthy at beautiful lavish mansions, and typically it would be in a controlled, supervised environment. And let me just say this, no privacy at all, guys. So you would go to a parent's home, and that parent would host the courtship, and it would be men, girls, and pretty much it was just a big ballroom and dancing. There was no holding hands, no kissing, no hugging. It was completely overshadowed by adults because the ritual of these courtships and the intentions of these courtships were to be groomed into marriage. So it wasn't like, okay, I'm seeing this guy and we're gonna see where it goes. No. You met him, you married him, you're stuck with him. Let me just say this, to be spooned or not to be spooned, as they said in a current magazine I just read from the 1920s. And so pretty much when things were starting to, as they call it, the decade that changed America, these Victorians were not too happy that these rebellious younger people were trying to change the courtships and actually just shoo them out. So right before the courtships were coming to an end, the Victorians did anything they could to keep these alive. And let me just say this, if you kind of want more of an insight of courtships, watch Bernice Bob's Her Hair. Not only does it give you exactly how courtships were held in a home, but just the style, the bobs of the 1920s, which bobbing your hair in the 1920s was really, really taboo. Like, that was a complete no. You were considered a flapper, a vampire. That's a whole nother episode, guys. And so at even such a young age, guys, girls as young as 5 years old were already being groomed heavily by society. And there was 5 rules that you had to follow that was called the No Ladies Etiquette. And let me just say that, I mean, it's so funny to me now, like, to think that stuff like this was so crazy. Okay, so number 1, no ladies' back should ever touch the chair. Number 2, no ladies' legs should ever be crossed. Number 3, no lady should ever leave the house with her last button on her gloves fastened. Number 4, no lady should ever let her bare feet touch the ground. And number 5, what was number 5? No lady should ever leave the house without a clean handkerchief. I know these 5 no lady etiquettes that were carried on from the Victorian era into the 1920s may seem silly, but this was very crucial. Like, you could pretty much had to, with your legs, not crossed, good posture, don't let your back touch the chair. Oh hell no, I'd be dying because I'm always like this. That's just me though, guys. So let me just say, after the courtships, if let's just say you decide to you're getting groomed into getting married because you're not dating, courtships, courtships, marriage, kids, that's it. You're not working because the man's working. That's just how things were. If you got married, you guys, let me just say this. This actually blew my mind, because just when I think I know it all, literally when I think I know it all and I start reading this stuff, I'm like, what? Oh, hell no. 1 second. Too hot. So when you got married, let's just say for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Let's just say you guys fell out of love, or I don't know, it just didn't work out. Well, guess what? There is no such things as divorce in the 1920s, because not only was it completely taboo, it was, what about your morals? You just there was no such thing as getting a divorce. So you were only able to get a divorce if you fell under these 2 categories. Number 1, widowed. Yeah, widowed. Number 2, adultery. So as I was reading, I read something along the lines that if the both parties just, didn't want to keep working it out and they wanted to get divorced, one of them were contemplating who's going to take one for the team and say that they committed adultery, because there was no other way out. And when they did get divorced, and if there was kids involved, normally now, right? Kids usually go with mom. But back in the 1920s, no, kids were given full custody to the dad, because the woman had to prove, after you were divorced, you had to prove that you were mentally stable. How messed up is that? And once you did get divorced, this did carry a big stigma for the rest of your life with you, because not only did certain establishments and jobs where you applied did not want a woman working there if she was divorced, because it was immoral. So you were you're not going to get a job anywhere, but if you wanted to even apply for credit and you were divorced, you're not going to get it, because it was immoral.
It was improper. It was inappropriate. But it was just, you don't get divorced, right?
In the 1920s, so to speak. And so, right after that, guys, a lot of changes did happen in the 1920s. And then came the devil's wagon, known as the automobiles. You guys, this literally cracked me up, and just all the findings I found in the newspaper clippings and the propaganda and the posters and everything, it is so hilarious. So when the automobiles started coming around, the Victorians were just completely in disbelief and shocked, and it was just so wrong, and they hated these cars and they didn't want automobiles. Why? Because this meant that young adults were finally able to leave, drive off, go to petting parties, go, hugging and kissing and, doing stuff in cars, because they were not able to be overshadowed by a chaperone. This meant that they were able to have somewhat kind of freedom when these automobiles started coming around. So they were considered the devil wagon. And this image here, it'll show you, this is a propaganda from the 1920s, a flapper with, as you can see, she's lifting up her leg. She's kind of like in this really, seductive position in a car, because it was deemed and looked down upon that people were actually jumping into cars and going out, kissing, hugging, whatever, and committing, so to speak, crimes. And there was a lot of crimes, people doing stuff in car, fondling, and it was just really crazy back then. Like, I love the 1920s for the glamour and everything, and, women speaking up, and I just love it, but damn, literally had no rights. None at all. So in Bernice Bobs Her Hair, once again, you can see as Bernice, because she was raised as a proper Victorian woman, she very classy, as whatever, followed the rules, was by the book. She's looking out the window and seeing her cousin jumping into the devil's wagon with 2 boys, and she is just frowning and looking through the window like, this is not okay. You guys have to watch this movie. It also meant that with automobiles coming around, what also started happening? petting parties. Now, petting parties back then was pretty much you were at a party, not supervised, no chaperones, no parents, and practically just meant that, you know, you were a petting party, if you get what I'm saying. Do I really have to explain this? Kissing, hugging, women having their legs crossed.
Oh my God.
And letting their back touch the chair, the you know, the back of the chair. And it is just hilarious. If another really good movie that expresses and gives the insight of this is The Cotton Club. It is on Amazon. Unfortunately, it's not free. It is, let me just tell you, the music, the ambiance, the insight into the 1920s, the glamour, the fashion, it really breaks it down for you. So alrighty guys, as if things couldn't even get worse with the Victorians literally losing their mind. Sorry. When telephones came around, they literally called it, it's too funny, the magic black box is what they called it, because Victorians were already very upset because not only were, you know, kids going out and leaving in automobiles and, you know, going out and listening to devil's music, which that's what they called jazz back in the day. Why? Because with jazz coming up in the jazz era, which meant, you know, the swing music and dancing and holding each other and just getting really close while you're dancing, was inappropriate back then, guys. I mean, when jazz even came out, there was so much hate towards it. That's a whole nother episode, guys. But anyways, as it is, people were, you know, driving out, leaving, going to these petting parties, going to dance halls to listen to jazz music. And oh, one thing I did forget to say, when people, because jazz was such a thing that people did not want at all. They were trying hard to like boycott, abolish jazz completely. That some dance halls would even, it was completely forbidden to play jazz. Like they had signage outside that said no devil music, like no devil music. And there was a newspaper clipping that was blaming jazz music for the inappropriateness going on. Alrighty, and so with the magic box that Victorians were completely just not happy with, they were mad already because not only were the kids leaving in these devil wagons and going to petting parties and going to dance halls to listen to devil music now, and writing, you know, aside from like writing, like, you know, physically writing, I don't mean texting, like writing letters to guys and seeing them every day, now they were talking to them on the phone. And this was such a big controversy because the Victorians were so upset because they felt that America was losing its morals, as they called it, the loose morals. But it was just the change of the decade, guys. So not only did it have the name of the black magic box, but it also was called the love horn because people were on the phone all the time talking to their man, I guess. But alrighty guys, this was a really good episode. Thanks for watching. I'm going to list a few movies that I think will be very interesting to kind of give you an insight to the 1920s. And I think for next time I will talk about the jazz age, because I mean I kind of briefly talked about it but not really talked about it, because they called jazz music the devil's music, and just, you know, they were just trying really hard to get rid of it. And that's all I listen to. I mean, that's just me. I love jazz. Alrighty guys, thanks for watching. Bye.